Okay, before the video starts proper, I need to address a couple of things first. There are certain parts of the video where I have to re-record some lines from the original script in order to make them sound better delivered and easier to understand. So if you hear any noticeable shift in the quality of my voice, you now know why. Also, this video contains spoilers for Season 1 of Yo Gabba GabbaLand, so make of that as you will. Anyway, with that said, on to our feature presentation!
Fuck, 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 fuck! Penis! Penis! Pussy! Pussy! Dick! Dick! Dick!
New from Nickelodeon.
Yo Gabba Gabba!
A children's show about a bunch of living toys from a boombox that sing and dance while also teaching life lessons? Get out of here with that crap, that'll never catch on. Yo Gabba Gabba is a children's show created by Scott Schultz, not to be confused with Peanuts creator Charles Schultz.
You want to talk about Peanuts video?
And Aquabats frontman Chris Jacobs, with the addition of being developed by former network executive for Nickelodeon, Kay Wilson Stallings. This is the only image I was able to find of her. It is hosted by Lance Robinson, who plays the role of DJ Lance Rock along with the 5 toys that he brings to life at the start of each episode. Muno,
I'm dog friendly!
Fufa,
Pink and happy.
Plex,
I'm a magic robot.
Roby,
I'm the little green one.
and Tootie. She likes to have fun. Since its premiere in August of 2007, Yo Gabba Gabba has since become one of the biggest kids shows of the 21st century. Not really Dora or Paw Patrol levels of big, but it was definitely big enough to be part of the pop culture zeitgeist. But before I get into the nitty-gritty thick of it, I'll talk about my own personal experience with the show itself first. I'm gonna be breaking my silence when I say this out loud, but I never really liked Yo Gabba Gabba when it was on as a kid.
Say what?
Which is ironic since I grew up with some shows that inspired Yo Gabba Gabba, yet I couldn't stand its presence despite being glued to the screen whenever it airs. It's like the equivalent of watching a car crash. You don't like what you see, but at the same time, you refuse to look away. There was even this one time I was invited to a birthday party that I had no idea was themed around Yo Gabba Gabba until I saw the decorations outside the event when we arrived. Because of how much I hated the show back then, I obviously didn't stick around long. With my breaking point was being told that the characters are going to show up later on.
No, 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 no! Wait!
I had no other choice than to flee the scene. For years I've been full of hatred towards Yo Gabba Gabba. That was until I decided to rewatch it out of curiosity back in 2017, and that was when I really started to appreciate Yo Gabba Gabba moving forward, with all that blind hate I had towards the show immediately thrown out the window.
Oh my god. I get it.
Now with all that out of the way, you might be wondering why I'm doing a retrospect on Yo Gabba Gabba to begin with. Well, to tell you the truth, I just felt like doing it, okay? I know everyone else has made videos discussing the evolution of Yo Gabba Gabba over the years, but consider my video to be a bit of a more shitposty approach since I feel like that's the best way for me to talk about this franchise. Something along the lines of what people like Chessington have done, if anyone's seen his stuff. It'll still be very high effort like most of the discussion videos I've posted on my channel over the years, albeit a little bit more leaning towards the humorous side. Make of that as you will. It's gonna be long, it's gonna be a lot to take in, and it's gonna be one of my craziest videos to date. So yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this show on the road!
Calling the new show Yo Gabba Gabba.
Why 2 Gabbas? Too many Gabbas! Fuck with me on this, Ted. 2 Gabbas or I'm out.
By the time Chris and Scott became parents, they started playing around with the idea of making a kids show featuring real performers and artists that they can watch with their own children, taking inspiration from the likes of Sesame Street and the Banana Splits, aka the only Sid and Marty Krofft project I ever grew up watching. With help from artist Parker Jacobs, the duo would eventually pitch a show bible around to the higher-ups at Nickelodeon, which not only contains what the program would be about, but also who are the characters featured and what role they play within. As you can tell, the characters looked a lot more different than how they would appear in the final show. Muno and Broby's designs were obviously taken from Aquabats lore, Plex had a lot more color, Fufa had butterfly wings and a bunny tail, there was a completely different human host predating DJ Lance Rock named Dr. G.
Dr. D is the name.
And then there's Tootie!
What the fuck is that? Fuck is what's
The Bible also reveals some characters that didn't make it past the stage, such as, for example, the Lurker.
I want my board.
It's kind of hard to read the text shown on the Bible due to the shitty image quality, but I can make out the description of the Lurker, in which he was intended to be a mysterious character that hides within the show's setting. Ooh. Hey kids, can you find the Lurker? Unfortunately, the executives at Nick were confused as to what the show is going to look like, assuming it would be a cartoon based on Parker's drawings, but the creators insist that it's live action.
This is a live action show with these characters, and then the executives would look at it and they'd go, so it's animated?
Yeah. Or they'd be like, yeah. So this animated show you're talking about.
No, live action. They're like, well, how do you do this live action? Here's a cartoon.
In order to give them a better understanding of how Yo Gabba Gabba is going to be presented, they filmed a series of pilots featuring their brightly colored OCs. So yeah, let's talk about the pilots.
Here's my impression of a pilot.
I am going to land this plane.
The first pilot for Yo Gabba Gabba that I'm going to go over is the one that's produced as far back as the early 2000s, when it was originally known as Yo Gabba for some reason. I'm trying my best not to be too mean, since this is the creators' first attempt at visualizing Yo Gabba Gabba with what they have, in addition of knowing that there are certain core elements featured that would eventually be carried over to the final product. But man, has everything else aged like a banana. Mostly in its presentation, like, look at Plex. Motherfucker looks like the poor man's Tin Man from Wizard of Oz. Plus, the voices given to these characters sound so weirdly monotone compared to what we ended up with.
Hey kids, it's me, Broby. It's time to solve another puzzle.
Hey! Whoa!
It's like watching an old episode of SpongeBob, and then watching some of the newer stuff to see how much Tom Kenny's performance of the character has changed. All in all, the test pilot as a whole is what I'd best describe as patient zero. It's not perfect, but at the same time, it's a sign of things to come moving forward. I'm not going to talk too much about the 06 pilots, simply because they're both pretty close to what we ended up with, but what I can talk about are some of the more noticeable elements that changed during development within. Like for example, Fufa. Her belly makes up around 66% of her body, and the material used for her skin is completely different, almost a more shiny kind of fabric. Plus her legs are extra thick. And the way she sticks out like a sore thumb compared to the rest of the cast. Thank the Nickelodeon gods for giving enough money to afford her successful plastic surgery. DJ Lance Rock doesn't talk much in both pilots, and for Show 1's case, he speaks a minimal amount of words as if he's in an episode of Ubi or something.
Dinner time. Time to eat.
Then there's the figures, which are pretty much some of the most uncanny looking shit I've ever seen, if I'm being completely honest. I especially don't like the look of Plex's hands. Ugh. In the final show, the much better looking figures were done by the folks over at Kid Robot, and at some point during the early years of Yo Gabba Gabba's run, you can actually purchase one of the figures, which each costs around like $20 something. Do you want to know how much they go for nowadays? Where is this guy now, and does he still have the Kid Robot figures? Okay, there's one more thing I'd like to bring up. Remember when I talked about Muno and Broby's designs being originally taken from the Aquabats? Well, the band Chris is part of was actually supposed to play a much bigger role here, in the form of a series of comics starring
The Bat Commander!
which would later become Super Martian Robot Girl. In it, he attempts to figure out why this pig blob is taking away any food that shares the same color as her skin.
I know! It's lost and it thinks your things are its family! Because they're all pink!
Also Red Circle, the bowler hat guy's monocle falls off. In the final show, however, any appearance of the Aquabats has mostly been reduced to a few cameos, occasional segments, and a performance of their song Pool Party. The pilots would eventually start to gain a bit of circulation to the point where it caught the attention of Jared Hess of all people, and would eventually show them to Brown Johnson, who at the time was the executive vice president and executive creative director of Nickelodeon Preschool.
You know what that means?
That's right! The boys finally got their little show idea greenlit, which leads us to the Yo Gabba Gabba we all come to know today.
Well, let's do it!
Yo Gabba Gabba! Tutti I giorni, alle 14:20, sono su Nick Jr.
If those pilots I've discussed were a tricycle, then season 1 of Yo Gabba Gabba is basically a regular bike with training wheels, because despite the show being the finalized version of Chris and Scott's vision, there's still some bumps in the road that manage to stick out, probably even more so than what the pilots have to offer, especially upon rewatch. The biggest of which being the regular segments that would often play between each portion of the main course. While some managed to stick around for the rest of the series, like the Magic Pictures with Devo's Mark Mothersbaugh, This Is Beat of the Day, and the DJ Lance Dance, There's a good chunk of them that didn't manage to make it past season 1. The Muno one's about playing pretend, the Fufa ones involve solving puzzles through games, the Plex ones teach basic things like making lemonade, the Broby segments are about guessing the colors, and 2Ds are about figuring out certain sounds.
Time to listen for sounds! Yeah! Okay! Shh! Listen!
They're all fine, but I can definitely see why these didn't last long. But,
And this is a big but.
there is one more Season 1 exclusive segment that I personally consider to be the best of the bunch. That being...
Super Martian Robot Girl! Yeah!
Super Martian Robot Girl is basically a series of motion comics where the title protagonist saves the world through the power of common sense. I don't know, I just like how limited but cool this looks and has the potential to spin off into its own separate thing.
The big shrimp shouldn't take things without asking. That is just shellfish.
Later appearances of the character are mostly watered down to cameos, a few real-life comics, and a one-off storytime segment in a Season 3 episode, which is nice and all, but I would have loved to see more of Super Martian Robot Girl. Anyone who still fucks with Super Martian Robot Girl, say aye! Okay, now on to the mainline segments, the ones that the show's demographic should always pay attention to the most. On its own, they're pretty good, especially for when the show first premiered back in 2007, but with what the quality of the later seasons had to offer, I feel like it's safe to say that for the most part, the overall presentation of Season 1 hasn't really aged all that well. Not to say that it's terrible or anything like that, but the older I got, the more cracks in the wall start to show. For example, there's this weird inconsistency involving Muno's feet that likely depends on who's performing him inside the suit, as sometimes the feet look good, but other times it looks like Muno's on the brink of slowly deflating. This would eventually cause the suit to appear more wrinkly than usual, which wasn't the case with how he looked in the 06 pilots, mind you. That could explain why this Muno suit was later reused to represent his dad, so in a way it's appropriate. Plex, on the other hand... Oh, Plex. He's something else.
Oh yes!
I personally thought he didn't look too bad at first. That wasn't until I saw this video by Braid Tunes that made me realize how dead wrong I was. It mainly involves the length of his pants being a bit too short to cover the legs of whoever's performing him, which explains shit like this.
Point to your legs and point to your feet!
It's important to note that this is a lot more reoccurring than what the video had to offer. A prime example of this would be in the episode Friends, where the moment Broby knocks Plex down, you can see one of the feet being detached from the performer's leg, which only appears for a brief moment, so you have to pause at the right time to actually see this error. There are even moments in certain episodes where the antenna on Plex's head will wiggle around like a joystick, and it's so fucking uncanny to look at. I don't know why, but for some reason I like to imagine one of the performers being spring-locked inside the Plex suit.
Fully operational, huh? Well, I'll be the judge of that.
All I'm saying is that if the Banana Splits can have their own dedicated horror movie, then so can Yo Gabba Gabba. I can see it now.
My name is Judy!
Probably my biggest issue with Season 1 in general is how much it loves to recycle their songs. Now, don't get me wrong, recycling isn't really a bad thing, but Yo Gabba Gabba has recycled so much of its songs from both the pilots and this season in particular that it comes across as a TV show equivalent of a near-broken record.
You can do nothing but repeat the same fucking words on loop like a fucking broken record!
Hey kids, you like the Jumpy Jump song?
Jumpy jump, 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 jump! Jumpy jump, 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 jump!
How about we take the same melody and give it a different title? Bam! You have Snacky Snack and Skippy Skip.
Snacky snack, 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 snack! Skippy skip, 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 skip!
What's that? You also enjoyed I Like Bugs? Why not give I Like Fish a try?
I like bugs! I like bugs!
I like fish! I like fish!
Oh, and that Don't Take It Away song?
No, don't take it away! No, don't take it away!
How about one more to add to your playlist, little Jimmy?
Please don't talking to friends! Please don't talking to friends!
I don't know who's at fault for thinking this is a good idea in general, but it gets a little obnoxious the more you recognize this. They also like to recycle some footage from previous episodes, albeit not as often. Like, have a sip of water anytime this shot of Plex's speaker shows up on screen. All of this recycling would be thankfully toned down in the later seasons. Another thing worth noting is that certain episodes would barely be dedicated to a specific topic. Worst case scenario is the episode Imagine, where only one of the 4 main segments was about imagination. Like, what does learning about your body have to do with playing pretend? I don't get it. For as flawed as this season was, there's still some stuff to like about. Party in My Tummy is iconic, the Super Music Friends show and jingles are home to some really good bangers, as today's kids would say. And let us not forget the first 2 holiday specials in the series, which are some of my personal favorite episodes in the season. Especially the Christmas one, it's really cute.
This is crack.
The episode Careful is pretty funny, cause in one of the segments, Muno accidentally hits Plex with the snowball.
Oh my god! Jesus Christ, he's been executed!
And apologizes for it, when in actuality, the magic robot himself is at fault here for not looking where he's going the moment Muno throws said snowball. Is he stupid? Also, shout out to Love and Happy for having some of my favorite songs in the show's entirety.
We can be best friends, best friends. We'll never go away. We can be best friends, best friends. You know I love you, you know I love you.
While there's still some stuff to like, Season 1 of Yo Gabba Gabba is what I'd best describe as the black sheep of the main series in terms of how well it has aged since its premiere, from a standpoint regarding both the execution of its visuals and format overall.
Hey, what's that sound?
Jump the mushroom.
I'll jump the mushroom when it's mushroom jumping time.
Okay, show of hands, how many of you remember playing the Flash games based on the show? Yeah, that's what I thought. Blah blah blah, Flash games are popular amongst kids from the 90s up to the 2010s. Blah blah blah, Adobe killed off Flash by the end of 2020. Blah blah blah, despite the loss, there are still many ways to access the games. Meaning, thankfully, I can still play the Yo Gabba Gabba Flash games. Oh shit! Shit, fuck! They're all fun. Well, except for Plex's Robot Creation Station.
I am so sorry.
But my personal faves of the bunch are the arcade game, the Magic Word game, which the premise would be loosely reused in the Season 4 episode, and then there's Muno's Volcano Volleyball, a true icon in the Nick Jr. Flash game sphere in my personal opinion. Come on. Yes! Yes! He said the thing! He said the thing! Oh my god, he said it! Whoop whoop! The UK dub of the show also has their fair share of Flash games, and if there's one word I best describe them, it would be awkward. I don't know, they aren't as interesting or as full of personality as the US ones, but I'd like to point out that the Party in My Tummy game is the origin of where that DeviantArt gif came from. The more you know. Oh, what's that? What's that? Is that an Asian stereotype I just see on my screen? I did not expect racism in my Yo Gabba Gabba. Yeah, look! It's a fucking racist seed! Why was it given those eyes?
This game encourages racism.
Brand new episodes of Yo Gabba Gabba every weekend at 9:30 on Nick Jr.
It's all uphill from here as we move on to Season 2, which is basically a step in the right direction where it took away all the bad stuff and replaces it with good stuff, such as, for example, giving the costumes a glow-up. In other words, the crew basically used Season 2 as a way to learn from their past mistakes. And to me, I think it worked out pretty well, all things considered. I feel like Season 2 is the fan favorite of the bunch from what I can gather with how memorable a lot of the episodes are, including art that features MGMT, the boat trip one with the fish band, the one where the Gabba Gang get their own instruments to form a band, the family episode with the Roots, holy crap, as well as the episode New Friends, famously known for featuring the iconic Kids' Choice host, Jack Black.
Fuck you!
I could go on about how iconic this season was for a lot of people, so I decided to simply narrow it down to my top 3 personal fave episodes from this season of Yo Gabba Gabba. Number 3, Ride. It has the Gabba Gang go on all sorts of rides, including surfboards, skateboards, and scooters. Probably the most notable thing to come out of Ride is sometime after it aired, the company Vans partnered with Yo Gabba Gabba in a series of promos that just so happened to feature the sporting goods the characters rode on in said episode. Except for Broby, who instead of getting those big razor scooters, he gets a motorbike for it, for some reason. You guys do realize he's 4 years old, right?
No.
Might as well give a quick shout out to those behind the scenes videos that go over the making of these promos. I love me some behind the scenes.
I'm feeling pretty good. Oh! Still feeling pretty good about it. Still feeling pretty good about it.
Number 2 has to go to games. It's a lot of fun to watch. I especially enjoyed the marching game segment the most, where all of GabbaLand got together to march along with 2D, as well as a song that was performed by Mates of State. It might be one of my all-time fave songs to come out of the Super Music Friends show. I wish this board game was real. And for number 1, we have Birthday. I personally consider this to be my favorite episode of Season 2, mainly because of how much work, love, and effort was put into decorating the party itself, even down to the other segments having a special connection towards Broby's birthday. Apparently, according to Parker Jacobs in an interview he did with the Yo Gabba Gabba fan podcast Hello Friends, they were originally going to have a professional baker be part of the Cool Trick segment, but that never came about, so Parker had no other choice than to step in and take the role instead.
Here's my special cake for Broby's birthday!
You can tell the crew put a lot of work into flowing their creative juices wild in this one based on how the party is decorated, and how much of a good time everyone involved in putting this together had. It's a blast to watch from start to finish, and if you haven't seen this episode in any way, shape, or form, then you've been missing out on some pure, unfiltered joy that this episode successfully managed to radiate. All in all, it's no denying that Season 2 of Yo Gabba Gabba is a step in the right direction of how much the show's quality managed to improve and will continue to do so moving forward once we get to the next 2 seasons.
Still feeling pretty good about it.
Oh, I almost forgot to mention that one new segment was introduced in the season involving knock-knock jokes with Jack McBrayer and Paul.
Hi, I'm Paul.
I got nothing much to say on them. They're fine.
We'll do it live! Fuck it! Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
If there's anything that best describes how much of a big deal Yo Gabba Gabba was, it definitely has to go to the live shows that were held over the years. I've never been to any of them in person due to my mindless hatred towards the show back then, but I did manage to catch a TV airing of it at some point. What made these special in particular are the visuals accompanying each song performance. Like, the amount of stuff happening on screen while the characters are dancing is enough to murder millions of Victorian newborns. That's how much of a technical feat these were back then. It's also important to mention that some of these songs require other costume performers to be involved with, like with whenever they play Party in My Tummy, for example. And let us not forget how some of the dances from the characters go very hard for these live shows aimed at families. And that's especially the case with Plex, like, he eats it up and leaves no cookie crumbs behind every time. This, however, is only the tip of the iceberg, as they were featured in other live events such as Coachella back in 2010, complete with videos involving the characters talking about their personal experiences at the festival.
But the best part of Coachella was all the new friends I made.
Would you do me a favor? Would you hold my foot?
This is gross!
For your information, this clip went viral online twice. They even performed a few shows at Sesame Place, but only 3 of the 5 Gabba gang members showed up, which is especially odd when the songs they would use featured audio clips of both Broby and Fufa despite not being in the picture. Even DJ Lance himself forgot that the 2 aren't present while introducing the characters in the show. They even joint ventured with the Aquabats in some live shows that I personally describe as appropriate since Chris is involved in both projects respectively, which led to one of the most iconic moments in Gabba history. One more thing I'd like to bring up before moving on is the behind the scenes video that was featured in DVD releases of There's a Party in My City, which is a mixture of skits with the characters dicking around, interviews with the big names that attended the shows, as well as clips from the live show itself. There are even 2 subplots featured throughout. One of Armand trying to find a good seat before the show starts, and one of the Aquabats struggling to find the entrance to the stage so that they can perform, which would be thankfully saved by Plex in the end.
Here we go!
Hit us, Plex!
Aquabats. Whatever.
Motherfucker, you're voiced by the Bat Commander himself. At least show a little respect, you bastard.
I am so sorry.
From the footage alone, you can tell how much of a fun time the crew had putting all of this together. It really goes to show how much Yo Gabba Gabba means to them and how much of a fun experience it is to work on the series.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom, boom.
Play with Yo Gabba Gabba weekdays
weekdays at 11:30 on Nick Jr. and play more at nickjrplaytime.com.
While the previous season of Yo Gabba Gabba gave the crew the opportunity to learn from their past mistakes back in Season 1, dare I say Season 3 is an even bigger step in quality, and I think it has to do with it being a perfect balance between the show's simplicity and ambitious nature. They may have played around with some elements of the format from time to time beforehand, like with the settings and new characters they would often introduce, but I believe this is where they went all out on the show's creative nature. It's good shit. Like, the jungle background does not need to go this hard, but they did anyway, and it's incredible to look at. That diorama they did for nature is also worth shouting out, cause what kids show has this level of care and effort put into it? In fact, some of my favorite episodes of Yo Gabba Gabba came from this particular season. Superhero might have some of the greatest costume designs in the whole show of the gang dressing up as comic book heroes.
Hey kids, this is Super Biz.
Some of which reference the most iconic superhero characters in fiction, like Broby is straight up the Cape Crusader that likes to punch clowns for a living. This is your only warning, r/Arkham Asylum.
No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
Speaking of clowns, there's Circus with Weird Al.
This is a story about a guy named
who was hosting this big circus show and the gang helped him put him together by participating. It's also the episode where Broby turned into Twitter incarnate.
Hola, soy un payacho. Hola, soy un putazo.
Then we have the baby episode, one of the few in the series that expand on the Gabba lore, where we look into what most of the characters look like when they were little, while also learning about how to take care of babies. Okay, here's where things get a bit confusing, cause in one of the segments, we're introduced to Plex's baby niece, Plexi, the best minor character, as in a character who doesn't appear that often in the series, in all of Yo Gabba Gabba, confirming that he's an uncle of some sorts. But that begs the question surrounding his existence. Was he once a baby, or was he built like this to begin with? We saw what the other characters looked like as babies, including DJ Lance Rock himself, so how come we haven't been given hints of Plex's early life? Doesn't help that according to DJ Lance, the god responsible for bringing GabbaLand and its inhabitants to life, he, quote,
I programmed Plex, made him my friend,
but didn't say anything on how he was built and why he was made to begin with. The show itself has shown multiple times that Plex is clearly the oldest of the main 5 Gabbas, as evident by the fact that he has a car and is the one to most likely lecture others. So how come we never get to see what Plex was like at Plexi's age? Huh? What are they trying to hide from us in regards to Plex's history that we, the audience, don't know about thus far? That could be me going a bit too deep into something aimed at babies, but hey, I'm not the only one asking these kinds of questions around here. That aside, the episode itself is cute, and so is Plexi herself. Another episode from Season 3 I personally liked is Bugs, which has 4 of the main Gabbas venture into the Oski Bug colony. It also lectures about babies, only this time it didn't have my ass question about the existence of the Oski Bug species.
Bees make honey, they don't do it for money. An ounce in your back will surely make you dance.
Is this the very rapper Eminem was too afraid to diss? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that Weezer guest performed in this one. I don't know much else of what they've done beyond this point. All in all, I personally consider Season 3 of Yo Gabba Gabba to be my favorite of the bunch in terms of the overall quality of each episode. A nice mixture of being simplistic while also playing around with its ambitions. You love to see it. But before I move on, I want to quickly point out how this season was the first instance of Chris's Plex voice being a lot different from when he first made the test pilot with Scott. It doesn't happen all that often, even in later Gabba-related stuff, but it's so drastic, jarring, and inconsistent that I can't even think of a better way to describe it, so instead, I'm going to do a quick comparison. Just listen.
He's hungry. Here you go. Eat this.
And this is a flower. Say flower.
I'm SpongeBob.
What do you think it would look like if we mixed Among Us and Naruto? I think it would look bangin'.
At the height of Yo Gabba Gabba's popularity, it didn't take long for its characters to make a ton of appearances outside of its own comfort zone, including crossovers. By definition, they're basically fun little mashups of different properties as a way to experiment with the fabrics of fiction. It's usually done through promotions and ad campaigns, but there have been a multitude of full-length episodes or movies involving this concept over the past few decades. Nickelodeon has done this before, and by God, they're gonna do it again.
Money, 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 money. Here comes the money.
I'm really looking forward to talking about this one the most in this whole retrospect, mainly because I'm a low-key sucker for any high-effort mashup between different properties, and the 3 crossovers Nick did with Yo Gabba Gabba are no exception to this.
Blue Jackson Trapped in Paris. The brand new movie premieres Saturday night at 8.
Give me some room.
only on Nick.
True Jackson VP is about this girl who tries to balance her teen life with being a VP, or vice president, for some fashion department. The voice of Bob the Builder is in this show, by the way. I don't know, I thought that'd be interesting to point that out.
Well, this was my first lesson. It's held at the preschool on 34th Street. Hey, that's my cookie, Buster!
So, what does Yo Gabba Gabba have to do with this? Well, they made a small guest appearance in the special Trapped in Paris, where they are held captive as prisoners in a mansion by the special's antagonist Carl Gustave, as a way to help his daughter eat her veggies.
Carrots!
The cameo itself is super random and doesn't have much to do with the rest of the plot other than to distract some guards later on, but I did enjoy what they've done with the amount of screen time they were given. I think the funniest thing about this cameo is that they actually don't mind being prisoners at all. They're just happy to be teaching Carl's daughter to eat healthy, and that's all that matters to them, and I respect that. I know this has nothing to do with the cameo itself, but while I'm still talking about Trapped in Paris, the actor playing Carl is none other than the late Stefan Carl Stephenson! Motherfucking Robbie Rotten from LazyTown, bitches! It's crazy to think that the guy behind one of the most iconic villains in children's television was in the same room with Yo Gabba Gabba and the voice of Bob the Builder.
Hi, Fufa. Okay.
Find out what's going on in a brand new Big Time Rush. Next Thursday at 8, followed by a brand new Wendell and Vinny.
There are three things that stick out to me anytime I think about Big Time Rush. 1, it was created by the Johnny Test guy. 2, I grew up with it a bit more than any of the Dan Schneider stuff, which is for the best in retrospect. And 3, Cartoon Network's Mad did a parody of the show not too long after its premiere where they replaced the band members with the Founding Fathers.
I don't know, I'm kind of digging this.
Which leads us to the season 4 episode Big Time Cameo, where the band is making a guest appearance on a children's sitcom titled Coco Poino, which is about a girl attending school who's trying to keep her robotic identity a secret.
No, Coco, those shoes are so last year. Uh-oh. Better reboot.
Nickelodeon's Latin American feed would rip off this concept years later. While on the set, the band notices how shitty the catering is, so James and Logan went out on a quest to find better food to fill their stomachs. Little did they know that they would end up in the set of a familiar kids show. Gee, I wonder who could it be?
You know it's not nice to take things that don't belong to you.
Holy shit.
It's insane to me how the characterization of Fufa, Plex, and Broby are here in comparison to Trapped in Paris. They're straight up gatekeepers in this one with how very protective they are of their own food. On one hand, I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, have you been to the set of Coco Poino yourself?
It looks like shit. It looks like shit.
They did eventually make up in the end after realizing why James and Logan keep coming back, so it's all good in the end, I guess. I also forgot to mention this, that the creators of Yo Gabba Gabba themselves make a cameo in this episode. A big time cameo, if you will.
I'm gonna kick your...
Don't miss the premiere of Yo Fresh Beats Go Gabba Gabba, Friday at 11:30 on Nick.
My memories of watching the Fresh Beat Band were very vague and blurry as hell, to the point where the only episodes I recall watching as a kid were mainly the ones from its first season. Which is a shame considering how much of a big deal the show was throughout its 5-year run. I do, however, remember it best for when it was originally titled The Jump-Arounds. I'm not sure how much this says about me, but whatever, I guess. At least they crossed over with Yo Gabba Gabba in the Season 3 episode Yo Fresh Beats Go Gabba Gabba. Here, the Gabba Gang are trying to get to some beach party, except for Tootie, because she managed to arrive ahead of time, but oh no! Plex has the hiccups, which causes his beaming to not function properly. Thank God the Fresh Beats are here to cure him. I know that sounds like I'm being sarcastic, but I swear to you that I actually like this episode. Mainly because this actually feels like a crossover in comparison to the previous ones I went over. The Yo Gabba Gabba characters play a much bigger role here, they interact with the other characters in a variety of ways, and their shared screen time with the Fresh Beats is very satisfying to sit through, in my opinion at least. It's also a lot more biblically accurate to the source material, as the Gabba Gang actually act like how they would be in the show instead of simply picking a side. They even have musical numbers that basically mash up the Fresh Beat songs with the Gabba ones, and they're all pretty good. I especially like the one that mashes up Go Bananas with Get the Sillies Out. That one's a classic. Probably the biggest thing to come out of Yo Fresh Beats Go Gabba Gabba, to me at least, is when it's revealed that the reason why Plex keeps hiccuping is due to a little red gear inside of him named Guillermo coming loose.
That Guillermo, always causing trouble.
They never acknowledged Guillermo in future Gabba projects since. I apologize to all the fans of Guillermo that had to hear this. Minus a few hiccups I noticed, I still consider Yo Fresh Beats Go Gabba Gabba to be my personal favorite of the crossovers I've watched in this segment. I have got some enjoyment out of the other ones, but I feel like this one in particular is the most fun to watch for reasons I've stated beforehand.
Pizza is awesome!
Double the fun with back-to-back Yo Gabba Gabba, next Saturday at 1 on Nick Jr.
I have a feeling that what I'm about to say about the final season of Yo Gabba Gabba might potentially give me some dirty side eyes here and there, cause personally, I'm very mixed on what Season 4 had to offer. Season 4 starts out pretty strong, like the strongest the show has ever been in history. The new costumed versions of the main Gabbas look amazing, the settings are full of personality and detail, even the songs featured are some of the best the show has ever offered thus far, especially the ones featured on the Super Music Friends show. Funnily enough, one of the episodes is very much a best of Super Music Friends songs, obviously making it the most minimalist episode of Yo Gabba Gabba to ever exist, but I mean that in the good way of how they handled it. Song choices are pretty good, and the segments that play between are short and sweet. Then there's the show's second Christmas special, which I know most people remember because that one famous emo band performed there, but I feel like everything else about the episode is just as worth looking into. It features a variety of old and new guest stars, songs are great and catchy as ever, the tree looks yummy as fuck and I want to take a goddamn bite out of it. They even went all out on making a holiday themed variant of the intro as the little cherry on top of the mint chocolate milkshake. The funny thing is that this was the only episode from season 4 that I managed to catch on TV as a kid, but that's a whole nother can of worms that I'd rather leave to the pros on why it took so long for certain episodes to air years after they were produced. All in all, just an overall nice sampler of some of season 4's greatest strengths, but my true favorite episodes of this season go far and beyond what the others had to offer. Mermaids has Tootie and Fufa go on an underwater journey in order to get Fufa's doll back.
Your doll!
But gasp! The doll is in the hands of the Sea Queen, and worst of all, she's voiced by Justin Roiland! The Queen just so happens to be hosting a dance competition, and whoever wins gets the doll as a prize. So Tootie and Fufa decide to participate, and what do you know, they won and got the doll back while learning a valuable lesson about respecting others, including women, something Justin could have learned from while working on this episode.
Well, someone's being naughty again.
I've always liked the chemistry Tootie and Fufa have whenever the show pairs them together, so it's no surprise that I would already love this episode from the start. And the amount of work that was put into bringing the ocean to life in the Yo Gabba Gabba universe is such a feast for the eyes every time. Probably the most important detail I want to bring up is the little continuity nod it has in this, as the doll Fufa lost is the one Tootie made for her in the Christmas episode back in season 1. And the way Fufa reacts to losing the doll shows how much that Christmas gift means to her.
She was my favorite doll.
Then there's Gooble, which is the first episode produced for the season. For context, Gooble is another character that originated in Aquabats lore through one of their songs on one of their albums. Anyway, the ghost character would eventually be part of Yo Gabba Gabba, which leads us to the best episode in Gabba history. The Gabba gang tried to figure out how to cheer up Gooble since he is so sad all the time. That is, until they reach his home that is located in GabaLand.
Spooky is great. It makes me giggle and my wires tingle.
Are you sure about that?
As it turns out, the reason why Gooble is upset is due to him thinking he doesn't have any friends, when in actuality, he does have friends since he has participated with the Gabbas in the past, including having him join the marching game, as well as showing support for the Gabba band. They even threw a costume party in celebration of having him as their friend.
Hey Muno, you're me!
I love dressing up as my friend Gooble!
And with that, for the first time ever, Gooble starts smiling, symbolizing a new era for the ghost, now knowing he has friends by his side whenever in need, erasing his doubts and increasing hope in himself in the process. In this house, we respect Gooble for finding the problem to his sadness and solving it with the power of friendship.
I better go home. Goodbye, guys, and thanks for the party. I'll see you later. Bye!
I'm sorry if this comes across as a bit cheesy. So yeah, Gooble's the best episode of not only this season, but also the show's entirety, based on how well they managed to tell a story about a ghost that went from sad to glad. Unfortunately, it's all downhill from here. Aww. Like, no offense to anyone who happens to like these episodes from the second half of the season, but to me it comes to a point where the show starts to come across as more so style over substance, as in, the show still looks good and all, but everything else doesn't seem to be as memorable as when it first started. Like, for example, can you remember any of the lyrics of the songs from the episodes Restaurant or Shopping? At all? Go on, take your time. Yeah, that's what I thought. I feel like the only good episode to come out of this batch is Super Spies, cause there's actually more to this than just some cool visuals for the kids to gawk at. Plus the songs in this are actually really good. Better pass me the aux so I can blast a balloon party song for all to hear. Quest is a close second to this batch for reasons that I've previously stated in regard. It also has this funny moment with the dragon taking Plex's wizard hat away, and the robot barely does anything to get it back.
Aww.
Wish the rest of these episodes have that sauce in them, but nope. But I feel like the worst of the second half of the show's fourth season definitely, without a doubt, has to go to none other than Dinosaur. It's basically similar to the plot of Mermaids, except not as interesting, nor as unique, nor it doesn't have a lot to offer beyond Muno, Tootie, and Broby wanting to know more about the dinosaur world. Even Plex and Fufa start to wonder where the others have been at the end. If anything, it almost feels like a season 1 episode but with a bigger budget, even down to one of the songs not being related to the topic at all. Not only that, but Patton Oswalt's guest appearance adds nothing much to the episode, and he's already been in a better episode from the same season. This feels like they reheated some leftovers from previous episodes, and this is all we got on our plate for us to eat.
I think the chef is trying to fucking kill me.
I do like how the settings are done. The stop motion's kinda cool, and the puppetry on Sarah's impressive. But that's about it. It's such a nothing burger of an episode, it's not even funny. It's quite impressive how Season 4 is home to both my favorite and least favorite episodes of Yo Gabba Gabba. If this were a tier list, I'd place 4 below Season 1. Cause for all its flaws, there are some episodes from there that I like more than the episodes from Season 4 itself. I told you this would give me some dirty looks. After officially ending its run in November of 2015, reruns of Yo Gabba Gabba would continue to air on the Nick Jr. channel up until around October of next year. And then, a few years afterwards, Nick would eventually lose the rights to the show in 2019. A lot has happened after the show ended, but I'm going to be as brief as possible since this video already feels long enough as it is, Jesus Christ. Yo Gabba Gabba will continue to be active on their social media accounts up until around July of 2021 with a touching tribute to Biz Marquis, who sadly passed away on July 16th of that year. You wanna know what else happened in 2021? Artist Parker Jacobs made a series of NFTs featuring legally distinct versions of the Yo Gabba Gabba crew. This was around the peak of the NFT craze, so of course our beloved artist would jump in on a trend that's definitely not a pyramid scheme which uses up a lot of energy, enough to harm our own environment. But who cares about that shit? Look how fucking cool the characters are that you can potentially own using a special crypto-based currency that is guaranteed to destroy an entire rainforest. If this doesn't feel like an L for Parker to take, then I don't know what else to tell you. The page has since been abandoned, thankfully, so I'm honestly grateful this shit went nowhere and I hope it stays that way for years to come.
Hey boys, you need to put your money in Dogecoin! Think of all the jawbreakers! My money!
I almost forgot to bring this up, but around the late 2010s, Wildbrain produced a spin-off series to Yo Gabba Gabba called DJ Lance and the Upbeat Retreat. I swear to God I'm not making this up. There isn't a lot of info I can find on this series, which I guess means this counts as lost media, but I did manage to get my hands on the supposed intro to the show. It is nearly 5 minutes long and features both Lance and the supposed Upbeat Retreat walking around in the green screen, clearly showing that this was made at a much lower budget. It kinda reminds me of the music videos Ninja Sex Party used to make in its early years pre-69-69, and the designs of the Upbeat Retreat themselves look a tad generic and samey, at least to me. They especially look worse when their costume forms are revealed.
Ooh, very scary.
If I were in charge of the show's production, I'd totally give these guys a much-needed makeover, but what else do I even need to say about this? Maybe if more material from the show resurfaces in the near future, I'll probably have a much better impression of what the spin-off has to offer. But for now, I'll definitely pass.
Okay guys, we're back. Did you miss us? Because we missed you.
August 2023, Yo Gabba Gabba enters the realm of TikTok for the first time after hiding in the shadows for around 2 years, indicating that more Gabba-related content would be on the way in the near future. The account mainly consists of a mixture between random clips from the show, characters doing TikTok dances, shitposts, and whatever this is.
This is my alter ego.
Anita Max win.
Well, someone's being naughty again.
A year later, in 2024, would be the biggest announcement in Gabba history. Yo Gabba Gabba will be getting its own 20-episode revival series titled Yo Gabba GabbaLand that's slated to premiere exclusively on the streaming service Apple TV+. What the fuck is an Apple TV Plus? For the record, this project has been announced as far back as 2021, but 2024 is where we get more details regarding the revival, including new and returning guest stars, new songs, as well as a new host named Cammy Cam, played by Cameron Smith. To hype up the release of the revival, the Yo Gabba Gabba characters will return to Coachella after 14 years with the addition of posting some vids on their official TikTok while they're at the event. They also have a special panel dedicated to the show's evolution at Comic-Con featuring Patton Oswalt. They do bring up some interesting behind-the-scenes info regarding the production of Yo Gabba GabbaLand. It was originally pitched as a movie where GabbaLand would disappear and change into a completely different world for the characters to explore. In other words, Chris and Scott wanted to create a bigger and better version of the show. During development, they decided that it would be fitting to use volume screen cameras that projects like The Mandalorian have used, as a way to visually reflect how bigger GabbaLand has gotten. It was pretty challenging to bring that concept to life, but they did manage to work it out the more it starts to look like how they envisioned it in their heads. And so, with all that out of the door, I think it's finally time that I get to talk about the one and only Yo Gabba GabbaLand. Season 1, cause the remaining 10 episodes have yet to be released as of the making of the script.
So much to explore, we can't wait to see more! Everybody welcome to Yo Gabba GabbaLand!
Like I've stated beforehand, Yo Gabba GabbaLand is an official continuation of the OG series, where the Gabba Gang explore a whole new world that is basically an expansion of GabbaLand, led by Cammy Cam, who would often interact with the characters from time to time, while also being responsible for some of the occurrences that our beloved cast would often interact with in each episode. Along the way, they encounter new friends, learn new lessons, and even try new things. So what do I like and what I don't like about Yo Gabba GabbaLand so far? Off the bat, the show looks amazing and really lives up to how the creators wanted to make an expansion of GabbaLand while also adding some new and interesting stuff in order to keep the viewers engaged. Like with the little junk houses the little shrimp creatures live in, as well as the big wishing tree in Brobyland who has the ability to grant wishes, and also has a child.
Who are you?
Speaking of which, the new characters they introduce over the course of the season are beautifully designed and have a lot of personality in them. And oh, wait, mama! Did I just get a glimpse of heaven, or is it just me?
Oh, who the fuck is this little minx?
If you can't already tell by now, this is Tootie's mother. And I know what you're thinking. And I'm thinking it too. But I know I ain't the only member of the Homo sapien species to say that this is the hottest character in Yo Gabba Gabba to ever be created in history. Like, there's no fucking way they knew what they were doing when creating her, especially on a children's show.
I'm a tall mommy.
Yes, and I'm a short daddy.
Never mind.
That aside, it is nice to see what the rest of Tootie's family looks like, cause prior to this, the only relative to Tootie that we saw is with her little brother Keaty, who debuted in a season 4 episode, Day Camp, so I'm glad we got to see more of that. Does this mean we'll see Broby's grandpa in season 2? Cameron does a pretty good job being the new host, even down to having her own set of godlike powers, which are sometimes used to keep the Gabba Gang interested in wanting to explore and learn. A majority of the songs featured so far are really good in my personal opinion, and are definitely worth giving a listen to every now and then. I especially recommend the I Wonder song as well as We're All Connected. It's definitely a top 10 Gabba song for me. One more thing I'd like to bring up about the show has to do with the character of Plex. Yes, we're talking about him for the billionth time again. Plex is still the same as he was in the OG series with helping out his friends and still being the most mature. Most of the time.
Oh! Was I supposed to catch that?
Are you out of your fucking mind?
But there's one aspect of this character that I'm so happy that they brought back. Early on in Yo Gabba Gabba, despite being the most intelligent of the Gabba gang, there are some moments in the series where Plex isn't sure about certain things, such as fun and high fives.
What?
To me, it gives a bit more depth to him, and I was bummed they didn't utilize that aspect all that much after season 1. But then I watched the episode from the revival series, Silly, that features one segment of Muno teaching Plex how to be silly, and no joke, this filled me with pure bliss. I don't care, I'm just glad they brought that side of Plex back, and I hope they do it again in future episodes.
You have a pizza face!
In addition, a ton of videos discussing Yo Gabba Gabba in the past have acknowledged how Plex is the only character in the main cast to not have his own dedicated home, and the way people talk about this would often word it as if Plex is homeless, which, yes, but no. He mostly lived a good chunk of his life in a docking station between Foofaland and Brobyland, which is where he usually charges himself every night and such, but still, not enough to count as a land. Again, the lore surrounding this character is confusing as fuck. Years later, however, our beloved magic robot would finally get one of his own in the episode Make, appropriately naming it Plexland, even though there was already a Plexland in the GabbaLand board game, but whatever, thus putting an end to the homeless Plex arc. Make of that as you will. Now, it's time to get into what I don't like about Yo Gabba GabbaLand, so strap in, fuckers. While I did enjoy what the revival had to offer so far, it isn't all that perfect either, with probably one of my bigger problems being how some of the segments are introduced. Specifically regarding both Dancey Dance and Super Music Friends, where they just happen naturally within the show. And it's not like the franchise has tried that twist on the format beforehand, but a line must be drawn on how you're going to introduce these segments to a new audience. And that is especially the case with the Super Music Friends segments. Like, don't get me wrong, the songs in the revival are just as great, but the way these introductions to said segments are being executed doesn't feel like it says, hey, it's our Super Music Friend. Where's the Swami when you need him to tell you that Thundercat is going to play a song, or at least have any hint of the segment about to start? In addition, some of the songs in these segments would have the Gabba gang singing along, which amps the confusion up a bit. Also, in the Dancey Dance segments, the part where it encourages the audience to do their own dance is now labeled as Get Silly instead of Go Crazy.
It's time to get silly! Yeah!
Like, what's wrong with the word crazy? And there's already an episode of GabbaLand that's all about being silly, so this little change makes less sense than it needs to be. Is crazy the new offensive C word along with cisgender, or am I the one going crazy here? While we're at it, I might as well briefly talk about my least favorite episode of Yo Gabba GabbaLand so far, and that is the third episode, Little. It's just a rehash of Big.
Huh?
Broby feels like he's vastly inferior in size, so he becomes a different size to make himself look better, only to learn a lesson involving acceptance of their true selves at the end. The only things I like about this episode are the settings for when the gang becomes small, as well as the Super Music Friends song that plays. Also Champ, because he's a good boy.
Wow! Let's see. Giant dog!
But other than that, it's a very whatever episode. Not as bad as Dinosaur, funnily enough, but still not a good episode in the Gabba franchise regardless. So yeah, while I have some personal problems with it, I still think Yo Gabba GabbaLand is a solid follow-up to the OG series, as well as being a testament of how much the franchise has grown in leaps and bounds. In other words, I highly recommend giving it a watch.
Yo!
Hi! Hello!
It's almost time to go!
Aww!
But first, let's go back and remember what we did today!
Okay!
Can you help me?
Yeah!
Can we dance?
Yeah!
Well, let's do it! I'll break it down!
Si te quieres divertir, ven a GabbaLand, tienes que venir. No te pierdas. Yo Gabba Gabba, Yo Gabba Gabba, yo. Te vas a reír. Yo Gabba Gabba, Yo Gabba Gabba, yo. Nueva temporada. Yo Gabba Gabba, Yo Gabba Gabba, yo. Ven a descubrir. Yo Gabba Gabba, Yo Gabba Gabba, yo. Nueva temporada.
My relationship with Yo Gabba Gabba has definitely shaped itself over the years that I've been alive, where the older I've gotten, the more I start to appreciate and respect it for what it set out to be, regardless of how it was executed. If anything, Yo Gabba Gabba isn't what I call a perfect franchise. I've shared a good chunk of problems I had with the show from past to present day. But for all its faults, mistakes, and mishaps, it did manage to live up to what Chris and Scott had envisioned since day one, while also successfully resonating with people of all ages and generations to this very day, as evident by their recent appearance at Coachella, among other things that are planned in the near future. No matter how relevant it is in the current state of the pop culture zeitgeist, Yo Gabba Gabba will continue to thrive in both the educational and entertainment scene, while carrying a simple 3-word phrase like a badge of honor that is guaranteed to lift anyone's spirits. Music is awesome!
Had so much fun today! Thanks for playing with us!
See you next time! Bye!
This video shout-out goes to the following. Episode 19 of the Nick Animation Podcast, where host Hector Navarro interviews co-creators Chris Jacobs and Scott Schultz on how Yo Gabba Gabba came to be, among many other interesting pieces of behind-the-scenes info worth looking into. Hello Friends, an unofficial Yo Gabba Gabba podcast where they not only have covered pieces of Gabba-related media, but have also interviewed a multitude of people who've worked on the show over the years, including the aforementioned Parker Jacobs. And lastly, YouTuber Oso Animation for uploading the Journey to Yo Gabba GabbaLand panel, which went over how Yo Gabba GabbaLand came about, including a special Q&A session with the Gabba Gang themselves. Thank you to everyone who have waited this long for this video to finally come out and have the chance to see it. It shouldn't have taken this long for this retrospect to be made and released, mainly in due to a lot of personal stuff I had to go through during production, but regardless, I'm at least grateful to finally put this one out in the digital flesh. I guess you can say that. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed it and considered it to be worth the wait, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye!
Attenzione, usare con cautela potrebbe farvi divertire troppo.